Welcome back to Not How Life Works. In this chapter of The Lady of the White Mountain, we delve deeper into the adventures of Hanno, a young Phoenician villager with dreams of finding the mysterious Siren located at the heart of the mountain that overshadows his home. When we last left Hanno, his journey had just begun, a journey driven by the mysteries of the murex shells, the whispers of dwindling supplies, and the tales of Naia, the revered and feared Lady of the White Mountain. The first chapter is linked in the description below for those who wish to revisit how Hanno's journey began. Stranded and injured within a labyrinth's unforgiving confines, he confronts not just the physical challenges of his surroundings, but also the emotional depths of his own resolve and fears. Chapter 2: The Siren's Grotto. Hanno's mind began to drift, like a lonely boat cast upon the ocean's whim. There she was, his mother. He seldom allowed himself the indulgence of her memory, for every recollection was a two-edged sword. It warmed him and wounded him all at once. She had the kind of spirit that was wild, yet gentle, a spirit that had woven tales of heroes, of the stars and of the great seas to lull him to sleep as a child. Long ago, she had set out for the city, a trip from which she never returned. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves, but the truth of her disappearance remained as elusive as the horizon. The family home, once filled with her lilting laughter and melodies, grew silent. His father, once a beacon of strength, became a shadow, his heart seemingly lost in a fog of sorrow. Hanno had vowed to never let his heart wander into the depths of such grief. But tonight, amid the labyrinthine dark, with the constellations above as his only witness, he permitted himself this rare communion with her memory. And perhaps, just perhaps, she was up there too among those twinkling lights guiding him. Drawing upon the comfort of memories, Hanno thought of the prayers his mother whispered when nights grew cold and the winds roared. "O mighty Baal, guardian of the seas and the stars," Hanno murmured, his voice a soft tremor against the cool night air, "I am but a humble traveler lost in the vastness of your creation. In the name of my ancestors and the love of my mother, whose spirit I hope now dances in the celestial realm, I beseech thee, guide my steps, light my path, and lend me the strength to overcome the shadows that stand before me. Let me be a beacon for my village, as you are for sailors adrift in the night." With that uttered, an idea began to form. Hanno cautiously doused the flame of his lamp, letting darkness swallow him. And then, as his eyes adjusted, the firmament above shimmered with countless stars, their patterns familiar and guiding. Gritting his teeth against the pain, Hanno began to slowly drag himself up. He discerned a small grouping of stars that always appeared to remain in place, a fixed point in the night's ever-rotating dome. He had heard seafarers speak of this cluster, always true to the north, a beacon for those lost at sea. To the side of this unwavering cluster, he spotted a formation resembling a chair slightly tilted. Elders in the village often spoke of this pattern as the Queen's Chair or the Celestial Throne. This, he remembered, indicated northeast when juxtaposed against the fixed stars. With the guidance of these celestial landmarks, Hanno aimed towards their intersection, where the grand silhouette of the distant mountain beckoned him. When dawn's first light painted the horizon, revealing a canvas of orange and violet, Hanno, battered but unbowed, finally stepped free of the labyrinth. The fresh scent of mountain dew greeted him, but the previous night's guidance of stars faded, leaving Hanno also bereft of the Siren's enchanting voice. He was truly on his own now, and that melodic call he'd been following, the one that had promised him direction, wouldn't sing again for another fortnight. Drawing his cloak tighter against the increasing chill of the ascending altitude, Hanno decided to rest and recuperate. Nestled by a nearby copse of pine trees, he sparked a fire, its flames crackling in the morning stillness. From his pouch, he pulled dried fruits and a small loaf, breaking his fast with humble fare. As he chewed thoughtfully, he examined his injured leg. Cleaning it with some of his precious water, he tore a strip from his garment, binding the wound as best he could. The cold from the nearing snows of the White Mountain tingled his fingers, reminding him of the arduous journey that lay ahead. Pulling his knees to his chest, he contemplated. Every 14 days, like the moon's own rhythm, her voice calls out. But why? Is she bound to the cycles of the heavens, or is there a deeper enchantment at play? Does the song emanate from the heart of the mountain, or from some hidden water's edge? A few fields ahead, he came across a shimmering waterfall cascaded with a majesty that seemed both inviting and foreboding. Sunlight caught within the droplets sparkled like 1,000 tiny stars, creating an ever-moving river of light. To Hanno's right, he noticed a narrow ledge carved into the cliff by the ceaseless hand of time. The ledge seemed to weave its way behind the falls, hinting at a hidden passage beyond. Taking a steadying breath, he began his careful traverse. Each step was deliberate, balancing the weight of his hopes and the reality of his injured leg. The damp stones, slick with moss and spray, required delicate footwork, as if he were engaged in a perilous dance with the mountain itself. His weakened leg faltered, sending him crashing into the icy embrace of the water below. The world became a rush of cold and confusion. Hanno was swept away, tumbling through the river's turbulent embrace. The relentless current, caring not for his plight, pulled him deeper, through winding underwater passages and tumultuous rapids. It felt as though the very spirits of the waters were testing his resolve, and just as darkness threatened to claim him, serenity ensued. With his clothes heavy and wet against his battered form, he found himself lying atop a smooth, flat rock, situated in the center of an expansive underground lake. Ethereal rays of sunlight filtered through a sizable chasm above, painting a tapestry of shimmering hues upon the cavern's ceiling. It was as if the very stars themselves had descended into this hallowed place. The water, crystal clear and placid, seemed to ripple with memories, murmuring ancient songs in its gentle lapping against the rock. The cave itself was vast, its walls lined with intricate carvings of tales and myths, glistening with moisture and reflecting the kaleidoscope of colors from the water. Heart-pounding, Hanno tried to call out, "Hello, is anyone there?" His voice echoed, reverberating throughout the cavern, each repetition reminding him of his solitude. A pang of unease prickled his skin, not from the chill of the water but from the profound isolation of the space. He carefully eased himself off the rock, wincing as he realized the extent of his bruises. Each movement was a dance of pain and determination. Mustering his remaining strength, he plunged into the lake, aiming for a wider shore visible in the distance. Upon reaching the shoreline, he glanced around, searching for an exit, but the cavern walls appeared continuous and unyielding. Upon regaining a semblance of focus, Hanno's eyes began discerning peculiar shapes beneath the translucent waters. At first, they appeared as mere twinkling starbursts, but as he observed more closely, an entire ocean of murex shells unveiled themselves. Their spiraled forms gleamed like an ancient treasure, hiding the secret of the coveted dye. He gasped in disbelief, for the weight of the village's salvation lay, quite literally, at his fingertips. Yet, as he tried to push himself to his feet, agony jolted through him. The pain from his injuries rendered movement nearly impossible. With each attempt to stand, his resolve waned and desperation set in. "By the gods," he whispered, looking up to the heavens for guidance. Above, the gaping chasm revealed the silhouette of a majestic tree, its branches teasingly dangling just out of reach. A plan began to formulate in Hanno's mind. "I could use the garments," he mused aloud, envisioning a makeshift rope swing. Drawing his dagger, he carefully sliced his clothing, weaving the fabric strips into a strong rope. It took him hours, his hands working meticulously, remembering the crafts taught to him as a child. Taking a hefty stone, he tied one end of his improvised rope to it, gauging the weight and balance. With a deep breath, he flung the rock upwards, aiming for the branch. Days blurred into nights, each attempt punctuated by the mournful chorus of distant wild dogs. Their howls echoed through the cavern, reminding him of his vulnerability. His stomach churned, thirst clawed at him. And all the while the prize, the murex shells, lay tantalizingly close, yet so far away. On the third day, with a flick of his wrist and a prayer to the stars, the stone caught the branch, swinging the rope back down. Elation coursed through him. With great effort, he hoisted himself onto the makeshift swing, creating a sanctuary above the cavern floor. From here he devised a simple fishing rod using a branch and some leftover fabric. He patiently coaxed fish from the crystalline waters, cooking them over a fire he crafted on the rocky shore. He would need strength to climb out. For now, though, he found solace in the cave's embrace. The very heart of the mountain had become his refuge. Time, in the shadowed embrace of the cavern, stretched taut and thin. Days melted into one another, discernible only by the waxing and waning of the moon's silvery sheen that streamed in through the chasm. On the 8th moonrise, as its crescent curved gently, Hanno discovered newfound strength in his limbs. Each tentative step sent a ripple of hope through him. However, despite his longing to escape, he realized his body was yet too frail for the daunting ascent. But the whims of nature cared little for the desires of mortals. On the following night, the heavens wept with a ferocity that Hanno had never known. Torrential rains lashed down, and the cavern, usually a sanctuary, quickly transformed into a churning pool of danger. The once placid lake roared with fury, its waters surging and claiming the rocky banks. Hanno, never having swum in the vast oceans beyond his mountainous haven, felt the icy grip of panic as the water level rose. Each attempt to navigate the furious waves resulted in mouthfuls of water and stinging eyes. Desperate, he clawed his way to the rope, still bound to the sturdy tree branch overhead. With every ounce of strength, he hoisted himself up, his life hanging, quite literally, by a thread. Days stretched interminably as the storm continued its relentless assault. The cavern echoed with the roar of water and the anguished cries of a man battling nature's fury. As the tempest raged, Hanno clung to his lifeline, muscles screaming and heart pounding. Time and again he was nearly consumed by the waters, only to be saved by the very rope he had fashioned. When the storm's wrath finally abated, a sodden and exhausted Hanno found himself sprawled on the cavern's edge. The waters had receded, leaving him shivering and drained. With dawn heralding a new day, he knew he couldn't delay his escape any longer. Gritting his teeth against the lingering pain, he began his ascent. Every pull of the rope was a testament to his indomitable spirit. Every inch gained a small victory. Shadows deepened, and the sun's last rays kissed the cave walls as Hanno neared the opening. Just as freedom seemed within reach, an eerily familiar, enchanting melody echoed through the cavern. The haunting siren song that had led him on this perilous journey reverberated once again. In a moment of sheer disbelief, Hanno's grip faltered, and he plummeted into the awaiting embrace of the lake below. The world darkened, but the siren's song remained, a lingering lullaby in the deep. In the ink-black embrace of the depths, memories of brighter times cascaded through Hanno's mind. The gentle lullabies of his mother, her tales of ancient seafarers navigating by stars, seemed both a distant echo and a sharp, immediate pang in his heart. To be lost like she was, he thought, adrift in unknown realms, without a beacon to guide one home. Memories of her mysterious disappearance on her journey to the city flooded back. The silence of the watery abyss mirrored the silence left behind by her absence. Mother? Is this the veil between worlds you two had to face? As his vision dimmed and hope waned, a miraculous luminescence began to pierce the watery gloom. A radiant tail, awash with ethereal bioluminescent blues and greens, cut through the dark, its shimmering scales painting streaks of light in the water. Attached to this otherworldly tail was a figure of unparalleled beauty. Her skin, a pale alabaster, stood in stark contrast to the dark waters, while her hair, a cascade of silver blonde, floated weightlessly around her, mirroring the celestial tapestry of stars. Naia, for that's who she surely was, approached the drowning Hanno with an elegance that seemed out of place in the chaos. Her large, opalescent eyes, filled with curiosity and perhaps a touch of sadness, met his. Time seemed to stand still as they floated, two souls momentarily locked in a dance of fate. Then, with a determination that belied her delicate appearance, Naia wrapped an arm around Hanno, her powerful tail propelling them upwards with a strength that defied her lithe form. In what felt like mere moments, Hanno found himself being gently deposited on the rocky shore, gasping for breath and coughing up the remnants of the lake's cold embrace. Naia, her ethereal glow dimming as they reached the surface, quickly retreated to the large rock in the middle of the lake, climbing it with a grace that was both feline and aquatic. From her vantage point, she watched him, her figure half hidden, eyes reflecting the myriad emotions of their serendipitous encounter. Hanno, still reeling from his brush with death and the surreal rescue, tried to find words, but for now all he could do was meet her gaze, gratitude and wonder warring in his eyes. Under the muted glow of the cave, Hanno's stare was magnetically drawn to Naia's eyes. They were vast and mysterious, the entirety of a moonless night sky captured within them. Stars seemed to flicker in their depths, a world of untold stories and ancient secrets. It was easy to see why legends arose about her. She was enchantment personified. Swallowing the awe that tightened his throat, Hanno ventured, "Thank you, but how do I address you?" Silence permeated the cavern, save for the gentle lapping of water against stone. When she didn't respond, he cautiously said, "You must be Naia." In reply, Naia hummed a melodic note, the harmony of which seemed to transcend language. Yet words remained elusive between them. Observing her intent gaze, Hanno tapped his chest lightly and pronounced clearly, "Hanno." Naia cocked her head, processing his gesture. Then she opened her mouth and sang out his name. The tune, though brief, was powerful, potent in its magic and allure. The siren's song struck Hanno with a force he hadn't anticipated. His vision wavered as the cave around him transformed. Gone were the haunting echoes and the luminescent waters. Instead, Hanno found himself back in the familiar surroundings of his village, specifically within Phyllis's dye house.